Are you a good writer? Because I don't know. Hey, welcome back. This is Sarah. I'm a freelance writing business coach, and sometimes I watch other people's YouTube videos, and I see if their advice is any good. It always is. And I had add some advice from my perspective, being in this industry for about a decade. Today, I want to watch a video that really caught my eye because everybody is always worried about this. Are you a good writer? 5 Signs You've Got the Chops by Alyssa Matisik. Now, a lot of people have watched this. A lot of people have subscribed. So I imagine these are going to be great signs, but I wanted to weigh in about what I think too. So let's watch.
It's a question nearly every writer has, yet very few receive a definitive answer to. Am I?
No one can ever get a definitive answer because only the person who's hired you can decide if you're good or not. And even if they decide you're bad, if you are good and you know you're good, it's up to you.
Are you a good writer? How can you tell if your writing is good or if you should just give up and find a different hobby or passion entirely? It is admittedly nearly impossible to answer this question because writing is a subjective art and it's not black and white. It's like looking at a painting in a museum and trying to determine if it's beautiful or if it's ugly. You might think it's beautiful, someone else might think it's ugly. It's all a matter of opinion, right? That said, there are some signs that you can look for that will help you determine if you're on the right track with your writing. So let's dive into the first sign that you're a good writer. And that's if you know the difference between writing and storytelling. At a bare minimum, to be considered a good...
My face. We are coming out of the gate with a huge horse. I don't know if that metaphor really tracks. What a surprising first one to say. So do you know the difference between writing and storytelling? I love that. I am going to let her talk, but it's interesting to think right off the bat. I'm thinking storytelling has a kind of metacognition or awareness of what's being done and what's happening, whereas writing is just the activity of writing. So writing could be storytelling or conversion or education, entertainment, like all these different kinds of writing. So storytelling as a very specific skill, explicit outside of writing.
Writer, you have to have a decent grasp of spelling, grammar, and sentence construction, right? You need to be able to convey a thought coherently through a string of words. That's what writing is. But that's a given, right?
Well, tell that to 50 Shades of Grey.
What sets apart a talented writer from a mediocre one is someone who knows that the prose itself, the actual words that you choose and the arrangement that you put them in, is only one part of writing as an art form.
This is so good.
Also have to have a clear story that you want to tell. And you need to be able to express that story effectively. Writing allows you to communicate, but storytelling is what allows you to touch and move readers. So are you just a writer or are you a storyteller? Think about that. The best writers are strong in both categories. Not only is their prose well constructed and thoughtful on a line level, but they have compelling stories to share, and they know how to translate them to the page. The next sign that you're a good writer is if you admire other writers. Who are some of your favorite writers? If you can't answer this question, then it's a sign that you should likely spend some more time reading.
We are 2 for 2 on great advice. I also think this reveals a really hidden gem in this second lesson, which is that really good writers have this baseline humility and goodwill towards the rest of the industry. And there's a lack of selfishness that comes from being willing to admire other writers, look up to them, enjoy their work, really get into it. And if you have no favorite writers or people that you admire or enjoy the reading, A, you might not be sensitive enough with your reading to understand and feel the kind of writing that they're doing. And then B, you might be too egotistical or selfish to really be sensitive to words in that way. So this is amazing.
Of the very best ways to become a better writer is to read widely and often. No art is created in a vacuum, nor should it be. Become a part of this writing community by reading, by engaging mentally with other stories. Any of the best writers today, even some of the authors that maybe you admire, I guarantee have their own list of authors who inspire them. The next way to tell if you're a good writer is if you receive meaningful feedback. This is a really big one. When you show someone your story and you ask them what they thought about it, and all they say is, I liked it or I didn't like it, that doesn't really tell you very much about your writing ability. And it's possible that this person just didn't engage deep enough with your story to actually give you more specific feedback,
or they might not be an editor, Like if they're just an appreciator of work, all they're going to know is if they liked it or not. I don't know. I'll keep listening.
Is not a good sign. If you receive a meaningful, specific response like, I really liked how you wove in this theme, or I didn't like that plot twist because it felt unbelievable, that's a sign that your writing is good.
I mean, respectfully, I'm going to disagree because I don't think other people are as aware of writing and editing and picking up on that kind of stuff unless they're in editing or in writing. So, yeah, I don't know. I disagree with this one.
The next way to tell if you're a good writer is if you consistently find ways to improve. If you reread your own story and then immediately have ideas on what you want to do to make it even better,
yeah, I'd agree with this. It reminds me of what a friend used to say, which was if they look back on the past year and don't think that they were a total idiot, he used a different word, then he'd be disappointed because that means he didn't grow very much. So, yeah, I'd agree with this.
deepening this character's backstory, or reconsidering how a specific dialogue scene plays out, then you're probably a decent writer. Because so much of writing and developing a story is wrapped up in the revision process.
You do have to be a little careful with this one because a lot of people who are overthinkers and in the writing space, we tend to be perfectionistic or we tend to get a little obsessive about our writing. So I do think you can overdevelop something a little too much. What I tend to recommend, especially if you're writing for a living, is that you're going to budget your time when you're writing a certain amount to kick off, a certain amount to kick off, research, outlining, writing, editing. You're going to actually budget hours or time to each of those parts of the process so you don't get stuck in that cycle of just iterate. Now, I think it can be very different for spaces like publishing. So obviously with a book, you are going to iterate maybe for like 10 years or, in the case of Patrick Rothfuss, maybe a couple decades. But if you're writing for business, you're going to want to set timelines and set boundaries around how much time you're spending on that kind of stuff.
The final way to tell if you're a good writer is if you value the practice. Good writers understand the limitations of the question, am I a good writer? They understand that it's almost the wrong question to be asking in the first place. Because remember, you can always become a good writer, even if you're not that good today. You're not born a good writer or not.
I don't know. I'm kind of losing the point here. I don't know if I agree with this one. I think we're getting a little snake eating its own tail. So if I was going to rewrite this, I would say the final sign you're a good writer is just that you want to keep doing it. Honestly, despite any negative feedback, despite lack of progress, despite lack of activity, if you still have the impulse to sit down and type away or write with a pen, I think that means that there is something in you that needs to express itself through words in that way. I think the impulse itself is the sign that you're a good writer, whether you are one exactly today or you are constantly developing into one. That's a whole different thing. But I think it's the same impulse for someone who has the urge to plant stuff and be in the garden, to draw and write, to teach, to talk, to love, to serve. Not everyone has that impulse. It's actually unique just to have the impulse. So if that's still there for you, it's just up to you to nurture it and garden it. That is what I think.
It's a skill that you develop and improve over time and over practice. So if you ever feel discouraged about your writing ability, know that this is not the end of the road. You're only going to get better and better and better as you dedicate yourself to the craft. I recommend asking, what can I do better? What parts of my writing could be stronger? That will guarantee that you're not just on your way to being a good writer, but a great one. I hope.
What a great message. What a truly great message. And I think I want to dive in even more on that idea that the impulse to ask anyone else outside yourself if you're a good writer or not, all of that is ego. All of that is insecurity. There will never be an answer to that question that satisfies you. All you can do is lean into this skill that you have and develop it. That's it. There's no way around it. You ask 10 people, 5 say yes, 5 say no. You don't believe either sides. You're still going to do your thing. So just do it. Here's to it. Are you a good writer? Who cares? Write anyway. Now, I may seem flippant with my review video, but I'm actually just super grateful that you're here and watching this. So thank you. If this was fun, if you want to see more of it, I have to say the YouTube thing, like and subscribe. And if you can forgive me for that, I'll see you in the next one.